All right, everybody, welcome back to Ask Sergeant Bart, and today's episode is going to be part one of a three-part series that I put together on the ASVAB test. So for those of you that are interested in taking this test and making sure that you have the best strategy moving forward to pass it, pay close attention. Go ahead and save this video for later, bookmark it, whatever you want to do. And if you need to, get some paper out, get a pen out, take some notes. For those of you that have already taken the test, either the PiCAT or the full ASVAB, and you are working on having to do a PiCAT verification, or you got forced into taking a confirmation test, pay attention to part 2 of the series. And then part 3 of the series, I'm just going to do a breakdown of the test scores and what they mean. I'll cover mostly Army scores on that one, but I will cover the other branches as well. So let's get ready and let's move forward. So one of the reasons that I am doing this particular video is when you look up how to pass the ASVAB online, either a video or a website or an app on your phone, a lot of times what they're going to talk about is, hey, study this, study this, study this. You need to read this. You need to read that. Go get this book. Go get that. Go to this website, whatever. There's too many of those out there. I'm not going to add to that list. What I want you to worry about today is how you go about approaching the test, your strategy as you want to take this test. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So this is the brief that I give everybody taking the test, whether they take the PiCAT in my office or they take the full ASVAB, the timed version at MEPS, the Military Entrance Processing Station. So for those of you that don't know it, the PiCAT is the test that you are able to take at the recruiting office or at your home, at work, at the library, wherever you happen to be, that you have computer and internet access. If you are not taking the PiCAT, you're taking the full ASVAB, and that one is going to be a timed version that is given at MEPS, Military Entrance Processing Station. Then that right there is your biggest difference between the two tests. The one taken at MEPS has timer on every single section. The PiCAT, when you take it, you are at your own pace. That will come into play as part of the strategy as we move forward here. So pay attention. I'm going to cover everything. If I fly a little fast here, just don't worry. Just rewind it and come back and play the section that I was talking about. First thing I'm going to cover, though, is prep before you even get into the testing site, wherever it be at the recruiting office or at the Military Entrance Processing Station. Two big things. First of all, make sure you eat. All right, make sure you eat breakfast at the very least. All right, there's an old recruiter trick: Snickers bar and a Mountain Dew. We do it for a reason. All right, we got to get some blood sugar. You get your blood sugar level up. Make sure that you're not distracted by any hunger pains as you're taking the test. All right, some people swear there's a 10-point difference between taking a test hungry and taking a test with a relatively full stomach. So eat. Make sure you eat. Another thing, before you walk into that test site, wherever it happens to be, go use the bathroom. Right? Go pee. I have had testers that got up early from the test only because they had to pee so bad, so they blasted through the test and they did not score as well as they could have. So take care of that ahead of time. Make sure you use the bathroom. All right, now that we've covered what to do before you even get into starting the test, let's cover the actual test itself. So as I mentioned before, there are two versions of the test. You have the PiCAT and then you have the full ASVAB. Now the PiCAT, like I said, is without a timer. What this means is you can take your sweet time. Now you do have a 48-hour time limit. Do not take 48 hours to take this test. Do not. All right, now let's get into the actual test taking strategy itself. Now, like I said before, there are two different types of versions of this test. You have the PiCAT and you have the full ASVAB. Biggest difference between them is that the PiCAT has no timer on it. Each of the sections is at your own pace. The full ASVAB, every section has a timer to it, and that will affect the way that you take the test. But let's cover the PiCAT first and your general test taking strategy. So PiCAT, no time limit. The average person should take between 2 and 4 to 5 hours at the most to take this test. That's if you schedule in breaks. Now, when I say schedule in breaks, because there's no time limit on any of the sections, as you go through, if you need to use the bathroom, get up, use the bathroom. If you want to get a snack, go get a snack. Need a drink, get a drink. You need to call your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Call your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Calm down, all right? Biggest thing is, though, do not open up Google. Do not pull out a calculator. Do not sit there and try to cheat on the test. So make sure you take your time, go through. Now, switching into the full ASVAB, I still tell everybody to take their time, and here is why. With every single question on the test, you need to read the entire question. If you don't, you're going to miss something. When you miss something, you do something wrong. What I'm talking about mostly here is the math questions. These math questions are worded in different ways to get you to do different types of math. And some of them are in the paragraph format that most of y'all should be already familiar with. As you're reading it, people will sit there and they're like, oh yeah, I think I know exactly what kind of math they're gonna do. And they're gonna start doing their math. You're doing the wrong math because you did not read the entire question. If you read all the way to the end, you're gonna notice the very last sentence or two in the math paragraph is gonna say, hey, you need to do the math this way. And now you're gonna be doing the correct math. This is why it's so important to make sure you read the entire question. This applies to all the sections, right? It could be the science questions, it could be the word knowledge questions, it could be the assembling objects, it could be any one of the questions. make sure you read the entire question. So now we've got that part out of the way. Let's talk about some of the harder parts of the test that tend to get people. One of the big ones is the math. Everybody sees the math and they freak out. Like, holy crap, I haven't done this math since 8th grade. I haven't done this math since 9th grade. I don't remember the last time I did this math. I don't know if I've ever done this math. Don't sweat it. Most likely, you graduated from high school, you're about to graduate from high school, you've done this math at some point. So here's how you help yourself out. You are given a sheet of paper. You're given a pen or a pencil. Make sure you use it. If you don't put the math on paper, you're going to forget something. And I tell every single one of my applicants this, no matter how simple that question is, you put it on paper. If the question is, what is 2 plus 2? You write down 2 plus 2 equals 4 before you select the 4 on the screen. And here's why. It's a crazy little thing with your brain. You haven't used it forever, but you did it enough in school that it's locked back in the brain somewhere, right? There's memory of how to do that math somewhere in there. It's this funny little trick that happens that when you start taking it and putting it on paper, you'll remember better. You have a much higher chance of remembering the correct way to do the math because you're going to see yourself doing like, wait a second, I actually remember this, and you're going to start doing the math the correct way. Or you'll just notice that you know you're doing something wrong, so you start trying to figure out something better. That's why you need to put it on paper. And like I said, no matter how simple it is, you put the math on paper. 2 plus 2 equals 4, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and there you go. Paying attention to the detail also applies to the way you do all the other sections as well. With the English section, there may be words that you're completely unfamiliar with. Sit there and try to put the words into a sentence. Try to figure out, have I heard this word before somewhere? Have I heard my mom say it, my dad say it, my uncle say it, my teacher say it? Have I heard the neighbor say it? Whatever. Try to put it in a sentence yourself, and maybe you'll figure out the meaning of the word. Maybe you'll figure out the correct structure of what it is that you're looking at. You've got to try, right? You can't just give up on the questions. Also talking about finer details. When you're doing questions like, say, the ones with the gears and the belts. Now, you're going to see like 3 or 4 gears and belts on there, right? And what they're going to do is going to have gear 1 moving one direction, gear 6 moving another direction. Oh, and they're going to say, hey, if gear 1 is moving this direction, which direction does gear 7 move? And you have to figure it out. Attention to detail, right? The easiest way to do that, take your finger, take your pen, take your pencil, and trace the little screen, right? Okay, the gear's moving this way, the belt's moving this way, the other gear's moving this way. Oh, there's my answer, right? There you go. Assembling objects. This one gets a lot of people as well. And if you're taking this test because you're trying to qualify for the FLURRY program, the Foreign Language Recruiting Initiative, you need to make sure you definitely pay attention to the assembling objects. It is in the finer details. That's how you pass this section. The assembling objects is going to be 2D and 3D images that are put together in like a puzzle, and you have to figure out what the answer is. And it's going to give you choices to pick from. Some of these choices, the answers are subtle. The differences are very subtle, and that's going to be the difference between right and wrong on that question. Make sure you pay attention to that. Look for the little cutouts in the shape. Make sure you look for the little symbols that are in the correct spot. They may flip them on you, trying to trick you into picking the wrong answer. Pay attention. Everything I've covered up to this point is your general test-taking strategy. But now I'm going to break it down a little farther as far as the difference between the PiCAT and the ASVAB goes. And remember, the big difference is that timer. That timer is going to kick your butt in some cases. Now, here's what I want you to pay attention to. Don't worry about the timer on each section. Ignore it. Almost ignore it. But for the most part, ignore it. What I want you to pay attention to is once you get down to about 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, depending how quickly you're going through these questions, if you know you still have questions to answer on that test, make sure you answer those questions. If you're running out of time, you don't have time to read every single question now, all right? You're a little slow in taking the test. You need to blast through those final questions. Make sure you answer every single question on the test. It counts against you if you don't because you're leaving answers blank. And here's a good way of looking at it. Would you rather have a 25% chance of getting the question correct or a 0% chance of getting the question correct? Kind of a dummy answer right there, correct? So make sure you answer every single question. Don't ignore anything. If you happen to be taking the paper version of the test, the same thing applies. If you know you're running out of time on the sections, make sure you answer it. Just start filling in bubbles. Right? Just fill them in and make sure you got every question answered. Right? Give yourself that chance to pass that test, especially if you know you're struggling on the test as it is. So there's one other thing about the ASVAB that I want to mention to y'all. All right, when you guys are taking the test in a testing center, say at ASVAB or at one of the remote sites, you're going to be sitting in a room. You're going to have other people taking the test with you at the same time. Now, some of them may have started with you. Some of them may have started after you. Some may have started before you. Right? Those y'all taking the school, a lot of times y'all start the test at the exact same time, even when you take the computer test. Here's what freaks some people out. They're sitting there taking their test, and next thing you know, the person to the left or to the right of them gets up and walks away because they're done with the test. And that person's like, I'm only on section 4. What's going on? All right. Here's what happened. They take the test different than you do. Worry about your test. Your test is your test. It is not their test. Their test is not your test. Am I confusing you yet? Don't worry about it. Take your test. Don't worry about what other people are doing. If they're super fast readers, I took my ASVAB about an hour and a half. I read very quickly. Right? I know people, I have seen it happen where people took the full 3 hours of the full ASVAB and they still score very well in the 70 and 80 range. Don't worry about it. Take your test. Focus on your test. Don't worry about anybody else. That is my complete test taking strategy for the PiCAT and the ASVAB. Now, next thing you need to do is just make sure you implement everything that I talked about today. If you didn't, that's on you. But I really think that this could be something that will really help you out with those tests. Some of you may have taken the test 3 or 4 times now. I've had people that have been in that situation. They implemented my strategy. They ended up passing the test and joining the Army. So if you don't mind, as you guys take the test and get your scores, please go into my comments below and add your scores so I can see how you did. If you think the strategy helped, please leave a comment in there. If you don't want to miss out on the next 2 videos in this ASVAB PiCAT series, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when I post them. It will not be too long, I promise. Other than that, if you do have any questions that you want me to answer on this channel, please email me at asksergeantbarts@gmail.com. You can see it down below in the comments, or you can fill out the form that I've also attached below. There's a Google form down there that'll send me some basic contact information, and I'll reach out to you. Give me about 72 hours. All right, so at that point in time, that's it. You guys have a great day.